we have very strong economic ties with Japan, in that Japanese companies are well established in South Africa and present in great numbers. So we discussed trade matters. We discussed issues of energy. The minister informed me that he'd had a roundtable with Japanese businesses represented in South Africa, and they'd raised the issue of electricity availability, as well as raised the matter of logistics, freight, rail in South Africa. So we discussed what we're trying to do in response. And a large part of the discussion was on global affairs, particularly Ukraine, Russia. I put it to the minister that as the G7 countries, they have an immense responsibility to working toward peace between these two countries, and that they shouldn't, seem to rely only on us to be the ones seeking to encourage a route to peace. We would like them to also help by playing a positive role that encourages both countries to work toward sitting around a table and beginning discussions on an outcome.
Saudi Arabia has indicated that they will be hosting the talks, but the strange thing is that it looks like they didn't invite Russia. How do you have peace talks without the other important party being on the table?
Well, I think there's been some inaccuracy in the reporting. You may recall that President Zelensky invited South Africa to join other countries in Copenhagen, where there would be deliberations on the peace plan that Ukraine has set out, and really trying to get a group of countries together to look at how they might advise Ukraine to approach this matter of peace. So our National Security Advisor to the President, Professor Mohamed, as well as our DG, Zain Dangle, were part of the team sent by South Africa to join others. South Africa, India, and Brazil were invited as part of that meeting. It also includes G7 countries and one or two others. So this is a continuation. It's a second round of that first meeting, which was in Denmark. Saudi Arabia offered to host the second meeting. I think after Copenhagen, Ukraine had gone back to reflect on the deliberations they had in the first, and had agreed that there'd be a second round. And that's what's happening in Saudi Arabia.
You've just returned from Russia. This issue came up when President Ramaphosa had a bilateral talk, or there were talks with the president of the Russian Federation. In the meeting between President Ramaphosa and President Putin, what came out? Are we making headways in trying to make impact on the proposal of the 7 leaders in relation to peace in that region?
Well, the presidents of the 6 of them were there, and the 7th was represented by a foreign minister. So all 7 countries were in the meeting, and I think that there was an indication of progress in that Russia, my apologies, has begun to give quite dedicated attention to the 10 points that had been raised by the African leaders previously. And he responded on the matters of prisoner exchange, on the issues of return of the children who'd been removed from orphanages, as well as on the Black Sea Grain Initiative, which did occupy a large part of the discussion. He has put certain issues before the leaders, which he says require resolution before there can be movement on a range of other areas. So the presidents have undertaken to follow up on these matters with other leaders and to come back to further meetings.
And Minister, finally, Niger. We saw what transpired in Niger, but what is quite disturbing is the communique from ECOWAS, hard-hitting, threatening to invade Niger. And now you have Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea saying we stand ready to defend Mali, to defend Niger, including Algeria, you are going to talk about silencing the guns. Where are we now?
Well, I mean, it's clear that we need to be doing much more. I think we need to see a more robust reaction from the African Union. I think the voice of the Peace and Security Council should be louder. And maybe it's time that we considered what form of intervention there might be through a standby force to ensure that there is peace and that we have a return to democracy in Niger. I'm extremely worried that this is now the fourth coup in that region. This is a very bad signal to armed forces, not just in West Africa, but throughout the continent and I suppose worldwide. So it's important that we rigorously address this and don't allow it to become a pattern that we respond to in loose terms.